Hello friends, I am Ajay Kapoor and I have been training students for various competitions for the last 18 years. Today we will be discussing a topic on compound interest. Now let's have the basic overview of the lecture. In this lecture we'll take up the concept of compounding, difference between simple and compound interest, how to calculate time and rate in compound interest questions, and finally some practice questions on the same. Let's have the basic concept of compounding. Compounding means accumulating interest earned during the period and adding it back to the principal. Now the principal changes every time, that is, the interest earned during the previous period is added, and finally we get a new principal for the next year. Now the basic formula to calculate amount for compound interest is principal into 1 plus rate upon 100 raised to the power t. Now compound interest is amount minus principal. Now let's have a basic question. Find the compound interest on rupees 1000 at 10% for 3 years. Now people, 1000 rupees will gain interest at the rate of 10%, which amounts to rupees 100. Now this 100 will be added back to the principal and the new principal becomes 1100, which again gains interest at the rate of 10%, which becomes 110 this time. Now again 110 is added back so that the principal for the next year becomes 1210, which again gains interest at the rate of 10%, amounting to 121. And finally these 121 rupees is also added to the previous principal to get the final amount after 3 years as 1331. Now my compound interest is 1331 minus 1000, which is the basic principal, to get 331 as the compound interest. Now we can solve this question with the help of our basic formula also, which says amount is equal to principal into 1 plus rate upon 100 raised to the power t. Here principal is 1000, 1 plus rate is 10%, and time is 3 years. So this calculates to 11 by 10 raised to the power 3. So 1000 into 11 cube, which is 1331, upon 10 cube, which is 1000, which gives us same 1331 as the amount. Now compound interest is 1331 minus 1000 equal 331. Here's a table which helps us to memorize certain values which are commonly used in compound interest questions. These values pertain to the commonly used rates and their respective times. So commonly used rates are 5%, 10%, 20% and 30%, and the years 1, 2, 3 and 4. So in this table we have a figure of amount when rupees 100 is invested at these many rates for these time periods. For example, when rupees 100 is invested at 10% for 2 years, the amount is 121, or the compound interest is 21. Likewise, the same rupees 100 invested at 30% for 3 years amounts to 219.7. So we can also have the interest earned here by subtracting rupees 100, which is 119.7. So going to the next question, find the compound interest on 20,000 at 40% per annum in 1 year compounded half yearly. Now let's understand the concept of compounding half yearly first. So here, since compounding is done half yearly, so that basically means we are adding or accumulating the interest for 6 months and adding it back to the principal, so that in the next 6 months we have a higher principal with us. So we have two effects happening for the same in the formula. So formula becomes amount is equal to principal into rate upon 2 by 100, since the rate gets halved for the half year and time gets doubled, because in one full year we'll have 2 half years. So now putting in the values, principal 20,000, rate upon 2 is 20 by 100 square. So we have 20,000 into 12 by 10 square, which is 20,000 into 144 by 100, which is 28800. Subtracting 20,000 principal, we get the interest as 8800. Now people, we can also use the table previously shown to you in this question also. Since here in the table we know 20% 2 years, the figure is 144. So 100 amounts to 144. So coming back to the question, since our amount is 200 times what we saw in the table, so we'll multiply 200 by 144 to get 28800 as the final amount, and again subtracting the principal, we get same 8800 as the final interest. Next question, the compound interest on rupees 4,000 at 5% per annum for some period is rupees 630.50. So find the time period. So using the same formula, amount is equal to principal into rate upon 100 raised to the power t. So here amount is 4,000 plus the interest earned, that is 630.50, which is 4630.50 equal to principal, which is 4,000, 1 plus rate upon 100 raised to the power t. So now shifting the principal to the denominator and cancelling the decimal and finally the 0, we can cancel this amount. Dividing it by 5, we get 9261 upon 8,000. So now finally we have 9261 upon 8,000 equal to 21 by 20 raised to the power t. So now here 9261 is nothing but 21 cube and 8000 is 20 cube. So we can write it as 21 by 20 whole cube equals 21 by 20 raised to the power t. So t happens to be 3 years. Now let's understand the concept of difference between simple and compound interest for 2 years. Taking an example of rupees 1000 invested at 10% per annum for 2 years. We'll have simple interest and compound interest first year, second year. Now rupees 1000 at 10% will have the interest of rupees 100 for the first year in simple interest also and the compound interest also. In the second year, simple interest gets 100 again. Compound interest gets 100 plus the interest on previous rupees 100 which gets added to the principal to gain interest at 10%, which is rupees 10. So we have total interest in compound interest as 210 and simple interest as 200. So the difference is rupees 10. This rupees 10 people is this which was calculated as interest on interest. So finally we got the concept that the difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years happens to be interest on interest. So applying the same on another example, if we have rupees 5000 invested at 20% per annum for 2 years, the difference would be 5000 into 20%, which is 1 by 5, and again 20% of the same, which is again 1 by 5, and getting the answer as 200. So this is the concept of difference. So let's apply it on a question. Find the difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years at 15% on rupees 15,000. So just applying the concept we just learned, 15,000 into 15% gives us the interest, and calculating interest on interest as again calculating 15% of the same. So now this will be 15 cube is 3375 divided by 10. So this is 337.5. So this is the difference. A sum of money doubles itself at compound interest in 15 years. In how many years will it become 8 times? Now here we know that 1 rupee invested at compound interest becomes 2 in 15 years. So we need to get it 8 times. So again using the same concept, 2 becomes 4, it get double in next 15 years, and 4 again gets doubled to become 8 times in another 15 years. So we have 15 plus 15 plus 15, that is 45 years. So this was all from my side. So let's have some practice questions on the same. These are the answers to these questions. So I suppose you understood the concept well, and it is happy learning from hitbullseye.com. That is all. Thank you.